Everybody has like a biological clock that's set up in their body. That's your circadian rhythm. Some people are night people, night owls. Some people are morning people. When we think about it, there's a multitude of effects that can be there. One, it could be a magnesium deficiency. Is there a magnesium deficiency that we have that's not allowing us to get into those deeper stages of sleep and sleep longer? I don't know.
Take magnesium.
You could. That's the way the world operates. And I think when we come back to this, it's empowering yourself to educate yourself on what is actually happening within your body, learning your needs and what your body's asking for, so that we can ultimately start providing it for that and answering the call.
What it is, Brad Lee back again with another episode of Dropping Bombs. Today on the studio, folks, or in the studio, I've got a real treat for you as always. Justin Roethlingshoefer's in the house.
Nailed it.
Justin Roethlingshoefer. If you saw the spelling, you might say Roethlingshoefer, but it's Roethlingshoefer. And if you guys want to follow him on Instagram, it's at Justin Roth, or Roth, basically, Roethh. Roeth at Justin Roth. I wouldn't say you're a sleep expert. You're more of a stress guy. You're the president, or you're the CEO and co-founder of Own It Coaching, which basically helps who?
You're talking about your business owner, your executive, the people who are operating at like the peak of their levels. Yeah, high levels, come from elite sport. So, and like you think about these people that continue to operate at the highest level, people like you, Brad, and there's so much stress in your life that you're conscious of and unconscious of, but yet our body keeps the score. And so at the end of the day, what you don't know is ultimately killing you. And you're rotting from the inside out oftentimes. And we all have these missions and goals that we're trying to accomplish. And I see it too often where these missions and dreams and goals are cut short simply because of the earned diseases that we've ultimately gotten over the course of our lifetime.
So there's two types of people in my mind. The ones that stress and the ones that appear not to stress. But everybody stresses.
100%.
Because if you were to ask me, do I stress? My answer is no. Like, I don't stress. And I've said this to people. Like, I don't stress on shit. Now, have I ever stressed? Yes, I've stressed a few times, obviously, that I'm very aware of that was like, one time I stressed so much, I had a patch of my hair fall out. But I was like, I don't even want to say, upset, but like somebody said something to me where I pictured the worst of the worst. And so I got literally and visibly, emotionally, every way possible upset to where my wife noticed a little quarter-sized bald spot on the top of my head right here. And I'm like, what the hell? So I went to the doctor. They said, oh, that's just alopecia. But it happened right after that. And they said it's alopecia, and you can't do anything about it. My wife gets out these oils, these essential oils. She rubs them on there. I'm like, babe, that's not gonna do anything. Sure enough, no bald spot. So my hair grew back. Doctor's like, well, whatever you did worked, dude. Maybe I should bottle that. But I stress on occasion is my point. Like, of course, everybody stresses, but there's stressors, like the people you see always stressing out. Yep. And then you see the people that seem to be cool, calm, and collect, but underneath they're stressing as well, right?
100%. You nailed it. It's like stress is not, nobody's immune to it. Like, let's think about it, even going back at the cellular level of how we operate. We've got billions of processes happening every single second just to keep us alive. And so living is stressful, not the fact of like physical stressing that we kind of, I think oftentimes in our culture think about, right? Where something happens visibly, it's irritated us or caused this physical stressor. Be it that you've got to sell 40 homes by the end of the week and you're like, oh my God, how am I going to do it? Or you're in a financial pinch, or you're running a 5-mile race, but it's an argument with your spouse. That's a stressor. Filtering the air that we're breathing right now, it's a stressor on our body. Breaking down the food you just ate, it's a stressor on our body. Filtering the crap out of the fluids that we're drinking. All of these things are stressors that we don't even think about. We don't even comprehend, but our body's keeping score, keeping track, because it's having to continually operate and push us forward and create this level of homeostasis or balance internally so that we can continue to operate.
Now, how did you get to here?
Well, how long do we have? No, I'm just kidding. But I was born in Canada and came down to the States on a hockey scholarship. And my dad said to me when I was 13 years old, son, talent will get you noticed, but consistency will get you paid. And consistency, I realized at that moment, was what I was after. And after my journey coming down here, got a master's degree in exercise physiology, went on and did my postgraduate research in heart rate variability, sleep and recovery science, and went on to have a 12-year career in the National Hockey League and NCAA as a performance coach, really helping to create frameworks for the best athletes in the world to manage stress and optimize performance in all these different facets. And towards the end of that time, I started to work with one of the owners of the team. And he goes, man, you're doing things different. Like, you're talking different. And ultimately the guys are getting different results. Like, injury rates are going down, sickness rates are going down. They're feeling better. They're performing better. What are you doing?
What are you doing?
We just started to use data, started to look at their body, started to stop using cookie cutter approaches to individuals that are all but cookie cutter. You're talking about the elite of the elite. And
that's me.
That is you. And it's a lot of people out there.
Yeah. So how do we de-stress and get me to optimize my actions?
It comes back to helping us realize and understand the language of our body. Everything has a language. Money has a language. Real estate has a language. Business has a language. You figure out the language, it's pretty easy. It's pretty simple. You follow the frameworks.
What about like breath work?
It's a part of it. It's all a part of it. I say, so at the end of the day, I want to know what's happening in my body. I want to know what's happening in your body. And our bodies have a language, and that language is heart rate variability.
Heart rate variability.
Heart rate variability. So I want you to think about this for a second. So any wearable device that you're using, an Apple Watch, a Fitbit, a Polar, a Garmin, a Whoop, an Aura, they're all measuring heart rate variability. And when we think
HRV.
HRV, 100%. And you've probably heard it. And I'm gonna call this out immediately, because a lot of the tech companies, Whoop, Aura, Fitbit, Polar, Garmin, they all have their own algorithms. They all have a readiness score or a recovery score or a stress status. They have to create these algorithms simply to provide any type of IP value for themselves. But really the core component comes down to HRV. If we can understand HRV, we can understand the language and the story in which our body's communicating to us.
Is a high HRV good or low?
So higher is better, and we'll talk about that in a second.
Yesterday I didn't do well. Yesterday I had a 47.
So we're gonna dive into that and start to understand
why. The day before
was
a 58. The day before was a 79.
So we're on a downward trend.
Yeah, we're going down. What the hell's happened? Am I stressing?
So for the audience out there, I want you to give them a snippet of what your last 3 days were like. And then I want to go back to teaching them like what HRV is, understanding like the true scientific component of what it looks like. How is it calculated? What is it all about? What's the difference between heart rate and heart rate variability? And so that we can start to apply some level of understanding to this metric, because once we understand this metric, you understand your body, you understand how it's adapting and handling stress and strain. And the moment we know that, the moment we can be empowered to make decisions in our habits and behaviors that will ultimately parlay us and push us into a state of optimization. I say there's only 3 things that people need to live an abundant life, to live a world-class life. One is a world-class talent. Everybody has one. Everyone's born with one. It's just a matter of if you choose to develop it.
Do you really believe that?
100%. Everybody is built to be world-class at something. World-class at something, for sure.
Well, at something. I think everyone has the potential to be, but I don't think everyone's born with some sort of talent that they've got to discover.
I would say it's a world-class. I would say communication is a world-class talent.
Wouldn't it be potential? It's potential.
Sure. I'll agree with that.
How come you're not Wayne Gretzky?
I wasn't born with that talent.
See what I'm saying? Well, again, I mean, you think he was born with that, or he developed it?
It's a good point, but he was born with the talent to play, and he chose to develop it to that area.
Yeah, so he had potential, really.
Sure.
Because when you say everyone has this world class, I'm thinking, well, there's a lot of people wasting their talents then.
100%. I would agree with you.
Because they don't know what it is.
Correct. 100%.
But how do you find your talents? try a bunch of shit.
It comes back to your calling. Let's come back to like, what are you called to do? What's that mission? What's put on your heart, and do you follow it? Do you have and that leads us to parts 2 and 3. You have to have a resilient mindset, and you have to have a absolutely perpetual deep desire to have relentless habits. You have those 3 things, you're going to find success.
So the stress is it, you say it's killing people.
For sure.
So there's people listening that, are probably like me, where they don't really feel the stress. Like, I don't feel stress.
Yeah.
Look at my hair. I'm 54. It should be all gray. It's not. I'm pretty healthy, actually.
Yeah.
My HRV seems to be going down, which is not apparently good. But at the end of the day, when you said, what did I do the last 3 days? Well, number one, I started my diet and cutting Monday.
Mm-hmm.
So I was, ultimately introducing new stress with weights but that's supposed to help stress.
I want to touch on this. So I'll go back to like HRV here for a second. So when we're looking at HRV, heart rate variability, what it's actually measuring, when I say, Brad, you've got a resting heart rate of 60 beats per minute, we would say, that by simple math would mean 60 beats divided by 60 seconds means our heart's beating at 1 beat per second. But that's actually not how our body operates. What's actually happening is there's a time interval between each successive beat. And so when we are under mental, physical, spiritual, or emotional stress, our body does not know the difference. And I'll touch on that in a second. Our heart beats get more regulated because our body's like, Brad's under some stress. We need to keep him safe. Thus, we need to regulate it out. So it might beat at 780 milliseconds, 840 milliseconds, 797 milliseconds. And the time interval, the variance, is smaller, which means your heart rate variability will be lower, meaning that your body is not adapting to stress and strain as well as it could have. You're more sympathetic. You're more in that fight or flight.
How do we fix
state.
it?
We don't need to fix it. We need to create a better rhythm back and forth between a sympathetic and a parasympathetic state. So parasympathetic being like rest, digest, relax. And what we start to do is we start to establish habits, behaviors, and lifestyles that are able to allow us to stress at a high level, but then recover. Stress at a high level and then recover. Stress at a high level and recover. And when we figure out that rhythm for us, that's when we build capacity. That's when we build resiliency. That's when we're able to build this cup that can handle copious amounts of stress.
How do you know it's handling it? From your HRV?
From your HRV and the trend lines of where we're going. So let's talk about this for a second.
So I was handling it better at 79.
At 79, and then...
That's what, if I look right, that was probably when I wasn't working out.
So let's go back to this.
So maybe working out's killing us.
That's not true. So when we take a look at this, small bouts of intermittent stress are necessary in order to increase your ability to adapt to these stressors. The only way we adapt is through adding in intermittent bouts of rest and recovery. And so let's take a look at your last few days. How was your sleep the last 3 days?
Well, I can look it up. To me, it feels fine. Like, I operate this way. But
Were you traveling?
No.
You were at home?
I was at home.
How was your diet?
Diet's been flawless since Monday.
Flawless since Monday.
Yeah, so Monday, my HRV doesn't register Monday for some reason. I might not have worn my ring that night.
Yeah.
But Tuesday was a 79.
Okay.
Yesterday was a 58, so it's going down.
Yeah.
And then today's a 47.
Yep. And
last night, because this is last night's numbers. So to me, I'm getting more stressed, or my body's not handling it as well. But I'm not stressed.
So it's awesome. I love this because cumulatively, as the weeks progressed, you've been having to handle more things. And as we came in here before the end of the day, or before we started this, you were like, I was just about to reschedule the podcast and say, clear my day, because I feel like I needed a rest day today, like something just to calm myself. And
because I had a million things mentally going on.
There it is, right there. You just nailed it. Your body doesn't know the difference between mental, physical, spiritual, and emotional stress. So you having to handle all these deals, something going wrong in your business, you getting in a fight with your spouse, you having back-to-back Zoom calls, you having to travel from Miami to Vegas. These are all stressors that are equivalent to your body going and running a 10-mile race. Your body doesn't know the difference between these stressors, and the body's response to stress is inflammation. It will respond.
We don't like that.
It'll respond to stress, conscious or unconscious, mental, physical, spiritual, emotional, by creating inflammation in the body. Inflammation creates symptoms that the world's told us are normal: weight gain, headaches, nausea, sleeplessness, brain fog, all of these things that, that's what it takes to be an entrepreneur. That's what it takes to be a father. That's what it takes to be a mother. That's what it takes to be a spouse. That's what it takes to run a 7-figure company, 8-figure company, 9-figure company. That's just what it takes. That's what it looks like to be 50. They're all lies. But because we stay in this area of fake health, which is disease-free but symptom-full, we ultimately lead to chronic disease, chronic illness, which is killing 71% of Americans. And so when we look at it, stress is that deep underlying culprit. Body doesn't know the difference between these stressors. Body responds by creating inflammation that we stay in chronically over time, like a small, low frequency of stress all the time, mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, which creates these symptoms that we're like, oh, no, this is normal. And it ultimately creates this chronic illness. And HRV is now the key indicator, that guide, that language that we can communicate and understand where we are any given day to say, hey, you know what? Today, I should probably give myself an extra 10 minutes of breath work today, or an extra 5 minutes of meditation time. Or you know what? I need to go out and water ski for an hour this afternoon and just give myself some self-care time. And off of this HRV component, I've developed really kind of like 8 controllables, 8 levers that you can lean into that establish some level of recovery or regeneration that will ultimately end up building your capacity. Because so many of us live in this upper left quadrant of overreaching or stressing. We have to have stress on our body in order to progress. Without stress, we die. Think about people that retire and go to Florida. The moment they move down there, they're dropping dead within 15 years because they've retired. They've got no stress anymore. They're not working out. They're not going outside.
So stress is good.
Stress is good in doses. We have to stop thinking about life as a marathon, and we have to start thinking of life as a series of sprints.
Well, like I got REM sleep was 2 hours and 20 minutes.
Yep.
Deep sleep was only 12 minutes. Now, again, maybe the ring's wrong, but let's pretend it's right.
Sure.
Okay, the day before.
Yeah, what was your total sleep time?
My total sleep time was 5 hours and 59 minutes.
Okay, so total sleep time, 5 hours and 59, you said?
Yeah.
So let's call it 6. So I would say it's on the low end. Ideally, we're shooting for 7.5. We can't get 7.5. Okay, cool. Let's just say 6 is normal for you.
Day before was 6.5.
Cool.
But I only had 53 minutes of REM and 1 hour and 8 of sleep.
Yep.
Now, again, the score went up because a deep sleep apparently is what you're looking for, yeah?
So you want your quality sleep is going to be REM and slow wave. So REM and deep sleep. When you talk about these two, a really high quality night's sleep is 50% or greater in total time in REM and deep sleep comparative to your total sleep time. So anything less than that, go ahead.
But I mean, is there something that people can do, or you just got to get lucky?
No. So there's frameworks we can go off of. And that's where we start to develop these different frameworks. And we talk about like the 8 controllables from sleep, exercise, hydration, nutrition, mindset, environment, immune function, and self-care. These 8 areas are all levers that we can pull. So let's talk about sleep for a second. And these are just baseline habits to increase and improve the way in which your body's going to handle stress and strain to get a better night's sleep. Easy pillar and easy cog to focus on. 3-2-1 rule. 3 hours before bed, stop eating any major food.
See, I kind of do that.
So 3 hours before bed, stopping major meals. 400 times more melatonin produced in our gut than is produced by the pineal gland in our brain. Our body's going to have to digest those foods. So if we're not doing that, that's an easy one. 2 hours before bed, stop any type of like major decision making, any type of big work stuff that you're going to go on to. Emails, texting, thinking about like the decisions you have to make tomorrow, all of these, maybe meetings, sending emails, all of these things, we want to eliminate it. 1 hour before bed, we want to take out all the blue light. So the computers, the TV, the phones, all these things, if we're going to be on it.
None of that.
None of either of those. So that's where we come back to. And I think, again, it all comes back to what you had spoken about is mentally over the last few days, you've been taxed at a high level. You've been pushing, you've been going, which is great, which you should.
But just mentally, I mean, I guess physically if you're working out, but I mean, again, if workout causes you to stress, that's not. No,
you should be. So the physical stress, the training, working out.
But wouldn't it be great if we found out you probably shouldn't work out?
There's a whole bunch of lazy people that would be loving this.
I would be. I'd be like, yes. I get all fat. People say, what are you doing? I'd say, dude, I'm trying to prolong my life.
Prolong my life. Yeah, that's
Nobody
definitely not the case.
Nobody wants to go work out and die early.
Definitely not the case. So when you come back to sleep, like setting that and establishing that framework in which we go to bed, and then an hour before bed, let's start to get ourselves primed for sleep. Let's ready ourselves for, quite frankly, one of the most important things that we can do. Sleep is a superpower. Sleep completely changes the way in which we operate cognitively, in which we are able to have memory recall.
How's your sleep?
I'm extremely blessed, and it's like dialed in on point. Like coming from East Coast to West Coast, I've been out here and I've got a framework that I just follow. So I've stayed on East Coast time zone. I've been here for 48 hours, stayed on the East Coast time zone, never switched over. So as soon as I landed in the evening. I went to bed at 7:30, woke up at 3, was at the gym at 4, maintained my breakfast time, my lunch time, all of these things. And
how many hours did you get?
8.
See, I couldn't sleep 8 hours if I wanted to.
That's when we start to come into like the deeper reason as to why. Like, could it be, and this is where we
maybe my body says you've had enough.
Possibly, but and to be honest with you, your average HRV score of somewhere around like that high 70s, it's actually pretty good. There's a scale. If you're 45 or less, you should see that average of somewhere around 70 or greater. If you're 45 to 60, you want to see that average about 45 or greater. And if you're 60 plus, you want to see it about 30 or greater. And so if that's your average, it means your body's handling stress and strain pretty well. But again, we have to understand that HRV is a completely individualized and personalized metric.
Yeah.
And we have to go off trend.
Yeah. And sometimes maybe those rings are wrong. Because I remember one time I looked at the clock when I was falling asleep.
Yeah.
It was like 11:30.
Yep.
I look, it's 11:30. I'm like, okay, it's 11:30. I turn my head the other way. And then you know how that goes. You wake up and you're like, oh, it was the morning.
Yeah.
So I don't remember how long it actually took me to fall asleep. But I woke up. Every time I wake up, I'm like, let's see what the ring says. I want to see my sleep score. So I clicked it and it said that I went to bed at like 10:30.
Yeah.
But I didn't. I went to bed at 11:30. And then it said that I woke up at like 6:39 and I woke up at 4:39 and then checked my social media for a little bit and then got up and went out. So I was laying in bed.
But you weren't sleeping.
No. So it was wrong.
So here's why I love everything you're saying, because it's literally calling out why wearable devices can just throw us off so heavily. And the best wearable devices are 90% accurate at best. And when it comes to sleep, 50% accurate at best.
But don't you think nature is the best one?
In terms of?
I mean, nature, bro.
Yeah, but how many people go to bed with the sunset and wake up with the sunrise?
Hardly any, but who goes to bed at sunset?
Starting to establish like a night routine.
No, dude, you ain't gonna have a very good life if you're sleeping at sunset.
I'm not saying sleeping at sunset, but starting to like wind down, get yourself like into a like on a normal day. A lot of people, if you start to ask like, how do we get the best quality sleep? And if you can see the sunset at night, it's going to reset that circadian rhythm. It's going to start to increase your production of melatonin. It's going to start to decrease your production of cortisol. It's going to start to get you into a state ready to sleep so that at 9, 10, 11 o'clock, you hit the pillow and you're out. If we can follow that 3-2-1 cadence going into sleep. First thing when we wake up in the morning, if we can see some form of sunrise, doesn't have to watch the sun rising, but some point between when it starts to crest over and when it's
Get some
halfway
sun in
up.
your face.
Get some sun in your face. Get outside. Get some fresh air. Get your feet on the ground. It again flips and establishes.
It's hard for me to get my feet on the ground because everywhere I walk, I have a couple people that work for me that throw down rose petals.
That's beautiful.
Yeah,
why wouldn't you want that?
Well, when I wake up, I'm like, no rose petals. I need to touch the ground. But in reality, because of Vegas, there's no earth.
Yeah.
Like
I noticed that.
literally cannot go find earth around my house.
There's a lot of development happening around here.
Yeah, but there's no earth. Like, in other words, it's cement from the pool deck. It's freaking, bricks from the walkway. There's no earth, or it's fake grass.
It's the turf.
Yeah, there's no earth. Like, I need earth because I believe in that grounding shit.
Yeah. It's a little bit different than my beach in Miami.
Oh yeah, you go to, the beach is great for earth grounding.
Oh, it's incredible.
So good. Then I'm handling stress. Okay, good. That's good
For sure.
I want to handle it better, but what sparked that last bit of conversation was I can't sleep if I wanted to. So in other words, let's say I stay up till 2 a.m. I'm still going to get up like 6. I get less sleep then.
Yep.
Why? Because for some reason, my eyes open around 5:30 every single day. Now, sometimes 6:30, sometimes 4:30, but mostly 5:30. Because I'll always wake up. And as soon as I wake up, I've trained my brain to think how grateful I am that I get another day.
Sure.
So when I wake up, I've trained it to give me a shot of something because I don't wake up groggy. I don't wake up like, oh, I wish I could sleep. I wake up and hell yeah, I got a kick-ass day coming up. Let's roll. So I look at the, depending on the time, if I look over and it's like, oh, it's 4:30, I'll be, let me check my social and emails real quick.
Yep.
But mostly it's 5:30 in the morning, no matter what time I go to bed. Now, I'm not doing the 3-2-1 thing either. So if I did the 3-2-1, I'd probably be bored for the last couple hours before I go to bed, and I might fall asleep earlier. Maybe that's why.
There you go. So everybody has like a biological clock that's set up in their body. That's your circadian rhythm. And some people are night people, night owls. Some people are morning people. And they can get up and no matter how hard they try to sleep in, they're waking up at the same time. And when we think about it, there's a multitude of effects that can be there. One, it could be a magnesium deficiency. Is there a magnesium deficiency that we have that's not allowing us to get into those deeper stages of sleep and sleep longer? I don't know.
Take magnesium.
You could. That's the way the world operates. And I think when we come back to this, and like if you guys take something away from this, is it's empowering yourself to educate yourself on what is actually happening within your body, learning your needs and what your body's asking for so that we can ultimately start providing it for that and answering the call. Like when you go and buy a new piece of technology and you just start kind of fiddling around with it and slowly learning it over time versus getting deep into the manual, like how much better can you utilize that piece of technology? How much better can you leverage it for the greatness that it's been built for and designed for?
Yeah, much better.
Same thing with our bodies. And so if we were to sit here and go, okay, Brad, let's take a look at your HRV. Let's track it. Let's use that as the KPI that we're looking at every single day. We would never run more ads in our business to something without knowing what the daily KPI and click rate was. It'd be stupid to say, hey, I'm going to continue to throw millions of dollars in everything, but one area is operating at 85% and the other are operating at like 3 and 4%. We take everything and double down on that area. So if we take a look at HRV and we start to say, hey, what habits did I engage in yesterday? Did I start to did I do breath work and a sauna every morning? And the days that I did it, I saw that increase, or the stressors that I know I was on and the travel I was taking. And when I kept that in my routine, I was more resilient. Man, maybe that means that it's eliminating some stressors through me throughout the rest of the day. Is it a cold plunge? Is it a breathwork series? Is it a sauna? Is it a certain supplementation routine I'm on? Is it the environment that I'm putting myself in? Is it going and grounding? Is it getting outside in the middle of the day? How am I structuring my day and my routines that are purposeful and actionable to me? Because with everybody that I've ever interviewed, ever worked with, all these high performing people, the unique thing is is that every single one of them does something different. Not one of them has the same routine. Not one of them has the same thing, but yet everybody else, the rest of the world is like, hey, what does Brad Lee do in the morning? Tell me your morning routine. I'm going to try and mimic you and become Brad Lee. Well, sorry, bro. That's not going to happen. It's not going to work. You might be on it for 2 or 3 months, but you're probably going to get exhausted because you're not Brad Lee. You're not the greatness that exists in him, and your body's not built the same as his. And so you're ultimately going to want to figure out what's working for you. And when we can figure out what works for you, that's when you start to circumvent any type of barrier that exists to leaning into some level of greatness. And I say this, and it's hard for people to hear, but we earn our diseases or we earn our health. That blood glucose monitor that you're wearing, that you have to take those insulin shots, man, you earned that. You didn't just wake up one morning and say, oh, dude, I got diabetes.
For the record, he's not talking to me.
I'm not talking to Brad.
But although you may one day, because like, you see in the blood panels that I get, that pre-diabetes numbers, getting up there, and it's like, oh boy, well, what do? You work out, you start eating better, you fix it. So you don't get diabetes. And I've also heard diabetes is totally reversible.
100%
even if they tell you it's not.
100% it is.
You got to eat different.
In the last year, we've reversed type 2 diabetes in 14 people.
See, if I had diabetes, dude, I would definitely do whatever it took. I wouldn't care anymore that I didn't like broccoli and whatever. I don't give a shit what you don't like. Like I'm not having diabetes.
Oh, it's whether it's your heart disease, whether it's your chronic illness,
heart disease.
There are all these chronic illnesses,
stressors in your heart. Remember Jack from Three's Company?
Yes,
he died from something called a aortic aneurysm, where basically it burst the tube because of that pressure.
Yep.
And that's all from inflammation. That's all from stress.
Correct.
Which means he had inflammation and stress. His body wasn't handling it very well.
Correct.
And nobody noticed it, because they can go in and do surgeries and put like a little sleeve around it if someone's noticing it, but no one noticed it. And at 55, dude, that means like next year for me. 55. Done. Now, dude, he had 20, 30 years left at least.
Totally. And people hate it, but he earned that. His body was probably communicating to him for years.
How?
He was probably tired. Maybe he was out of breath walking upstairs. Maybe he was having headaches. Maybe he had a hard time sleeping. Maybe he was having some anxieties. All of these things that are signs and symptoms that our body's communicating to us with, that we just chalk off as normal. I call it the fake health continuum. On the left side, you've got death and disease, which we know what that looks like. You enter into the system. On the far right side, we've got true health, where we all have our own picture of that. But for me, you go to bed at night, you wake up in the morning fully refreshed, jumping out of the bed just like Brad does. Go and you play with your kids, you get your workout in, you go off to work, you get all your things done throughout the day. You've still got more energy to come home, drive your kids wherever they need to go, connect deeply with your wife, go to bed at night, fall asleep, and do it all over again the next day. Like, that is what, for me, true health looks like. But then in the middle, we've got the place where 95% of people live, which is fake health, which is disease-free, but symptom-full. And all of these symptoms that we just chalk off as being normal: anxiety, headache, brain fog, weight gain that we can't get rid of.
And that's your body talking to you.
That's your body talking to you.
So how do you listen to it?
Ultimately, you just go, hey, this is not normal. I know how my body is operating is not normal. That's when you seek out an expert. You seek out somebody other than your doc who's trained to help you in this one area of
Well, they just give you medicine.
Correct. We're just
doctors, are good, obviously, if you're dying and, that you need help. But what I don't like about going to the doctor is all they want to do is prescribe medicine.
Prescribe meds.
And medicines are not good.
The moment you take a look at your habits can change the game so much. And
I tell everybody when they come to me, I'm like, mindset, skill set, habits. Those are the three things you got to focus on.
Talent, habits, mindset. That's what we started with.
Talent?
I said talent, you said skill set.
Yeah, it's mindset, skill set, and habits.
We got similar three.
Those three things, if you focus on those three things, you can do anything.
Totally. 100% agree with you.
And when people want to blame something, the president, whoever, blame those, because that's the blame. If you're in a shitty situation, it's your mindset, skill set, or habits. And if you're in a great situation, that's who you thank. Your mindset, skill set, habits.
100%.
Because that's what boils it down. You got a book out there called The Athletic Performance Blueprint.
Yes, sir.
Is it on Amazon?
It is on Amazon, yeah.
They can just go get it there?
Yeah, just go grab it there.
And also, you have a thriving business with NHL people, Fortune 500 executives, entrepreneurs looking to basically take the next step in their health journey and level up. Where would people, if they're listening, reach out for that?
Yeah, if they want to get more information on it, they can go to ownitcoaching.com, or just even to get more information on HRV and understand more about HRV and how to apply it in their life, they can go to ownithrv.com.
Yeah, those are much better than my team. They wrote Justin Roethlingshoefer, which is Rothling. Dude, that's a hard one to spell.
It is a tough one.
If you tell someone go to Justin Roethlingshoefer, they're not going.
They're not finding it. They're not finding it. I always say I was the smartest kid in kindergarten because I knew the alphabet, and then it went downhill from there.
Why don't you just change it to Roth, R-O-T-H, just for business purposes? It's Justin Roth. And then people will be like, R-O-T-H? You'd be like, yeah. I'll find Justin Roth. I don't know if I'll find Justin Roethlingshoefer.
You hear it once, though. You don't forget it.
Yeah, pronouncing it now, easy. Roethlingshoefer.
Yeah.
I look at it, yeah, Roethlingshoefer. Although I would have said Roethlingshoefer, but I wouldn't find that spelling for sure.
100%.
Especially with the way you pronounce it, like Rothling sounds like R-O-T-H-L-I-N-G. It's actually R-O-E-T-H-L-I-N-G. And then chauffeur, I would think, who knows? Because you can think like chauffeur, that's C-H. You can think like, but this one's SHOEFER.com. So if you can't find it, just go to ownitcoaching.com or ownithrv.com. That's better. Well, dude, I appreciate you coming in. Give them 3 things they can do right now to start de-stressing their days. If they feel themselves stressing, what are 3 tips that they can just implement right away and de-stress a little bit?
First thing, find a really great breathwork sequence. Easy, 2 breaths in through the nose, long audible exhale.
What do you mean?
Long audible exhale through the mouth. So inhale deep.
You did that last one at the end. What for?
Last little bit to fill it up. It's instant. It regulates the vagus nerve.
So you say.
There it is. It's called the cyclic sigh. They did a study actually that took a look at 5 different breathwork sequences, along with meditation. And the cyclic sigh, the breath work that you're going through right now, deep inhale breath through the nose, last inhale breath through the nose, so 2 inhale breaths through the nose, and long audible exhale through the mouth, was the best at alleviating stress immediately.
Long audible.
Audible, let it go. Ah.
Now, okay, so there's one. Give me another one.
Number 2, in terms of stress reliever, get outside.
Do what?
Get outside. Get outside. Get the sun on your face. Get the fresh air outside. Get your feet on the ground.
What if it's not possible?
Where do you live, Alaska?
What if I'm right here? I'm stressing. Guys, I'm going to have to take a break. Excuse me for 10 minutes. I just need to get fresh air. I ain't doing that shit.
You can breathe, though. You can do what you just did. And then
I know. I got the breath part. Now,
seek gratitude.
Is there another one? Is there a meditation of some kind?
Seek something you're grateful for.
Gratitude will bring down the stress.
It is impossible to be stressed, anxious, overwhelmed, frustrated, and grateful at the same time.
See how powerful gratitude is? Now, do you know that to be a scientific fact?
I do.
Because I'm going to start using that.
You should.
I'm going to, because my gratitude talk, when I go talk on stages, gets everybody freaking
just
fired up. Well, yeah, because I use an analogy I realized myself one day, which is, I call it the $1 million morning. Because if you woke up tomorrow, like normal every day, you wake up, you do this, you do that, you're stressing about this, you're stressing about that, you're thinking about this, you're thinking about that. You're not freaking all pumped up, fired up, and excited. But if you realize that you would rather wake up than get $1 million, you'd rather wake up than probably get $10 million. So if I told someone, I'll give you $50 million, but you're done, you're not waking up tomorrow, everyone would be like, no. Okay, so you value your life, you value the day more than $50 million, but yet what if I gave you $50 million, how would you act? If I gave you something less valuable than we get every day, knock on wood, or praise God, whatever you believe, but we get this every day, the gift of waking up. And that's why I think I have an advantage over people, because of that gratitude. Maybe that's why my stress is okay.
For sure.
Because, dude, me, it's like, I think the day is going to be a kick-ass day no matter what. The question is, how kick-ass will it get? Because it's already kick-ass the second I open my eyes, because I realized there's no amount of money I would have took to not do this. Yeah. So this is the most valuable thing I could ever ask for, and I get it every single day, and I get fired up. So I'm getting fired up talking about it.
You are getting fired up.
And when people hear that, they're like, wow, this is freaking, I've never really thought of it that way. But it's true.
Yeah.
So you got to, gratitude is powerful, but I've never said you cannot be grateful. And what were they?
Anxious, overwhelmed, frustrated, depressed at the same time as you can when you're in a state of gratitude.
Even when you think of the word gratitude, you go, ah.
Feel good.
Like, oh, I'm so grateful.
And so, like, to your point, you have such a heavily developed mindset and your physical habits are so great. It's why you've probably got the resiliency that you do, and you can ultimately have a couple fluctuations on the other side, and you can take on everything that you do.
Okay, what's the second one's get outside, get the sun in your face, get the ground on your feet. If you're not if it's not possible for you to do that, what was the third one?
Gratitude.
Oh yeah, be grateful. And then one more just for shits and giggles.
One more just for fun. Move.
Not meditate.
I mean, you could like meditate.
Because like when I think I want to stress out, I want to get quiet.
Look what you did though.
And I want to just picture myself floating in a cloud.
I'm gonna call you out, because the first thing that you did, yes, you went into a meditative state, but you took a big deep breath in and a big long audible exhale out. And so breathing will always be a better, faster, quicker, easier way to relax.
And should your chest be full?
So you want to go think
like
about
watch
that.
This.
There it is.
How long should that be?
Now you're floating.
How long should that be?
2 seconds. Let it go.
That's not long.
No.
How long should the inhale be?
Quick. So as deep as you can.
Not through the mouth.
Not
though.
Through the mouth. In through the nose.
What if your nose is plugged up?
Spread it.
But does it work through your mouth or no?
So when you start breathing, so mouth breathing, we can get into a whole bunch of mouth breathing versus nose breathing. So your nose is used for breathing because it starts to filter air. And when you start breathing, try right now, try taking a deep breath in through your mouth, and then try to take a deep breath in through your nose. Yep. Now take a deep breath in through your nose. What did you get more air in?
I think the mouth.
The way that you looked and what data will show you is you take in more air through breathing through your nose.
Well, my nose is a little bit plugged up right now, so maybe that's why it's not the nose.
So when you breathe through your nose has filtering system. Your nose has a way in which activates your diaphragm at a greater level and your intercostal muscles at a greater level. So think about this. What a lot of people think when they're inhaling air, when they're breathing, that they're actually sucking air into their body, and that's how they're getting air in. The actual concept of breathing is that when you breathe air in through your nose, all you're doing is you're creating space. So you're activating and flexing the diaphragm, which drops the diaphragm, flexes the intercostal muscles of the ribs, lifts the rib cage, creating a greater pressure differential in your lungs than is what is in the atmosphere, which is what causes a rushing in of air. So it's actually not the inhalation motion of bringing air into your body, but actually the flexing of the diaphragm and the intercostal muscles that just creates a differential of pressure that allows air to rush in. And so you're going to feel greater resistance when you're increasing or when you're breathing through your nose than when you're breathing through your mouth. However, you're going to get more air and utilize the entire volume of your lungs when you're breathing that way. It's no different than a bike. If you're on a low gear, it's a little bit harder to pedal, but you're going to go a lot faster. You're going to go a lot more efficient versus on a higher gear. It's easier to pedal, but you're just pedaling faster and faster and faster. Same thing with our breathing.
So folks, if you're out there in the world stressing at all, breathe, be grateful, get outside, And if you think it's a big problem, well, then get a hold of Justin.
Look at that HRV. First thing.
Own It Coaching, folks. Go look it up. Follow him on social media at Justin Roth, Roeth. And until next time, keep it real.
Don't teach your kids to be quiet. Quiet doesn't get you paid. I swear to you, it doesn't. I've seen a lot of people real quiet and they don't get paid. You got to speak up and you got to walk around, believe it or not, like you own the place. You got to walk in, and I'm not saying be arrogant, be proud. Walk into the place like you belong there.